Hi, I'm Rachel Claver from Identify Marketing. This is a video all about how to set your price to market for a product or service. And this was created because I've been watching a whole lot of people on online forums, or I've talked to quite a lot of my clients in the last few weeks, and they've really struggled with this, particularly as their business has grown and suddenly the profit they saw in the beginning has started to disappear. And it's really hard when we're setting a price because often we've got a whole lot of other roadblocks and biases in our place around what we can currently afford, what we think the value of the product or service is, what people are telling us the product or service value is. And it means, and we're asking the wrong people. Often we're asking people who might be our partner or our best friend or just a random group of people. If they're not your target market, they're not the right people to be asking that. The other problem with this is if we haven't clearly defined what the sales pitch is, what the benefits of it is, then the price is moot. We offer marketing strategies and we offer other sales and trainings things. With the clients, our target market, our price is not a problem. It's not a barrier. With people that aspirationally want to use us, price is a barrier, yet they'll still sometimes choose to use us because the perceived value is there. And that's what this is. So the basic thing with sales and prices is you can put as much as long as the perceived value of your product exceeds the cost to use your product or service, then the customer feels that they're getting a good deal. A good example of this is a client that we had years ago, and he wanted to be considered the best photographer in his region. So what he did is he rang up all the other photographers around and found out their prices, and then he put his prices up the top. So he basically was positioning himself right at the top of that sort of cost benefit pyramid there. You know, we would put maybe Aston Martins, and by doing that, he was saying the perceived value of using me is going to be this because of my cost. But if he had done that and had a crappy website, or if he was poor to talk to in customer service, or his portfolio was bad, then there would be a disconnect between the price that he was offering and the perceived value of what he was offering. So they do need to be matching. It's the same as if something is amazing and fantastic. So like if you were selling 24 carat a necklace with a diamond and you were selling it for $99 and everyone else around you is selling it for $499, I'm not actually going to trust you that that is what you're selling because the perceived value is higher than the price you're selling. So it means I can't trust that you're actually giving me the real value of what I'm getting. So it's really important to set our prices just right. And how do we do that? Well, that's quite hard. Some of it's market research. So we need to make sure that our target market understands. But I also want to talk about just generally, how do we put a buffer around our pricing so that when we're selling something, it's allowed for growth of the business. And so this is very important. It might mean that you work out a price for something, you've got an idea, something, you work out the price for it, and you go, actually, for it to go to market and achieve growth, I can't currently deliver to what the market wants. I need to go back and find another way. And it's important to go through that. So here's your 5 things that you need to focus on. The first thing, obviously, is the cost of goods. So you need to actually work out how much it costs to produce that in terms of goods. Now, even though we've got a service and we sell services, we still have a good component of that because we provide people with printed material. So that has to be considered in the cost component, because if I didn't, I actually lose around $100 worth of profit for everything that I sell, and that can make a big difference. So you need to factor in the cost of the goods. You also need to factor in a buffer zone around that. A client I worked with a few years ago, they were producing medicine. It was a beauty-related medicine. And with that product, she had a great supplier for her bottles, and then suddenly she ran out and she hadn't created a buffer zone, and the only ones she could find were more expensive. And so immediately her business is in danger because she hadn't put a little bit of a safety buffer in case there's a problem with supply. We've just changed printers and that's affected ours. So you need to have that space, which leads me to the next bit. You need to make sure, so you got the cost of the goods, you need to have a buffer if the price goes up or the price changes for those goods. And the third one is you need to factor in admin time. So any admin time relating to managing the delivery of those. For us, we have to have typing time and email time in relation to booking things in and scheduling things. So that has to be factored into the cost. Then there's the third cost, the cost of creating or doing it. So for a jewelry maker, they might have factored in, only cost me $5 to make this product, but they haven't actually taken in the fact that it's taken them an hour and a half to create it. So what happens when you grow and you need someone else in and you've never factored that in, you can't afford to bring someone in. So you need to be doing it not at the rate necessarily that you'd like to be paid, but the market rate for someone else to replace you has to be factored into the price. And then the other thing that needs to be factored in is a sales or marketing buffer, or a sales marketing cost to get the client buffer. So for us, it is around between 15% or so. And what that does is it means that we measure everything in that budget. We have a budgeted amount of money that we can use towards sales and marketing. Now, if we get someone in and it's just a walk-in and they get it, that's great. But actually, it's covering the cost of all the marketing generated leads. It's covering all the costs of sales. It covers me. If I've got someone going to meet a client, it covers their petrol. If I hadn't factored that in as I grew, it would have made my business a lot more complicated, because I have to pay that and it has to come out of somewhere. And if you haven't factored in at the beginning, then your profit disappears and you start getting problems. So the time to do the product to do it is really important, and the sales and marketing spend. And then the last thing you need, and we personally don't have this because we're selling services and we don't tend to on-sell our services. But what you also need is, if you've got a product, you need to have a wholesale rate and then the markup to your retail rate. And the retail rate is what you're going to sell it to. And then as you grow, if people want to actually distribute or they want to do that, you've got a fallback. Those of you that are creating a product and you're setting it at, I think this is the price, say $29.95, but you haven't factored in a wholesale rate, the minute someone comes and says, can I supply this for you, the only way you can do that is if you cut your profit. What's the point? So it's the 5 things, very easy things, are cost of goods, buffer that to make sure that the price is protected if it goes up and down, the cost of your time so that someone can replace you if the business grows, you need to do it, a sales and marketing component around between 10 to 15% is probably quite good to count sales and marketing, and then the wholesale rate. So often the actual cost of the goods is actually a very small fragment of the end cost. So you need to focus on delivering that. So I hope that's helped, and I hope you set your price. It is important to set it at a rate that your target market want. And as I said at the beginning, don't think about what you would buy for it. Don't ask your friends who are in the same boat as you. Find your target market, define your target market, and then go to them and test the market price out with them. Thank you. So I'm Rachel from Identify Marketing, and it's been a pleasure to give you those tips.